Welcome to the Wildcat Weekly. I'm your host, Sean Anderson for Ponca City Public Schools, and this is our weekly sit-down with Superintendent Shelley Arrott. We talk about the issues and the happenings in Ponca City Public Schools every week, this very short program. And, of course, all of us were saddened by the tragic news, the unimaginable, in Uvalde, Texas, and that horrible tragedy. And Shelley, it's really has school districts all over our nation rethinking and reassessing security. And what are we doing with Ponca City Public Schools security?
Well, you're right, Sean. Even though Uvalde's 700 miles away, it might as well have been in our own district or our own backyard, because it makes all of us rethink our practices. Now, I will say we have some good practices in place, but it's always good to even try to up your game when it comes to security, because mass shootings are becoming more prevalent, and unfortunately school buildings are sometimes targeted. So there are some things that we have done in Ponca City, our current practices. Thankfully, all of our buildings have secure entrances, and that's thanks to our voters and our bond projects. We at West Middle School, we do not have bullet-resistant glass, but that is a bond project. It was scheduled for next summer, but we're looking at our architects designing that and moving it up. That would mean that the main entrance would be closed during the school year if we moved up that progress, but it's worth it. Inconvenience worth it if we can make any
100%.
Kind of safety practices for that. We also have 2 SROs that we have through the Ponca City Police Department who work for us full time. We have one housed at the high school and one that splits between East and West Middle School, and then both serve any of our elementary schools if the need arises. We also have our own safety officers, our own security. We're looking at hiring 3 to 4 additional safety monitors to just check the perimeters of the buildings, just to be there, be present, be at the doors, stand watch, so to speak. Also, we have a wonderful, productive relationship with the Ponca City Police Department.
Sure.
We meet with them regularly. They provide training to us. They update us on all tactics and protocols. You may remember the scare we had back in September. It was a social media scare, and our sheriff's department and the Ponca City Police Department were there within minutes. They were ready to go in and protect our staff and students within 3 minutes. And turns out, false alarm, it's okay. We'd rather have false alarms than a tragedy. We also provide ALICE training for all of our teachers and for our students, and I hate that we have to provide that training.
Now, what does that stand for?
ALICE. Okay, alert is inform people with as much information as you can. Lockdowns. If there is not a safe way to evacuate, we encourage staff and students to lock down and barricade their room if it's not safe to evacuate. Inform. We pass on as much information as we can to the office, to other teachers. All of our teachers have a cell phone, to the Ponca City Police Department. Counter in an effort of last resort. If we have an armed intruder, we'll do whatever it takes. If they make their way into a classroom, we can throw books, we can throw staplers, we can throw desks, we can throw whatever to try to distract them and then evacuate. And if it's safe to do so, we would encourage everyone to evacuate to a safe place. We do use an abundance of caution with our lockdowns. If there is a police investigation or a threat, even within a mile radius of our buildings or even more, we lock down out of an abundance of caution.
Sure.
And we did that several times last year. We sent out a press release or an app push letting our patrons know that everyone was safe, but we were locked down just to be safe. You never know who might try to escape the police by trying to get into one of our buildings. So we lock down. That means people stay in their classrooms. They don't go out to use the restroom. We've held up activity buses before because of lockdowns that have nothing to do with the school, but for crime in the area. So we're going to be proactive moving forward. We met with the principals on Friday. they're going to work up a schedule just to check the doorways, just to make sure they're locked. Accidents can happen. I am not saying that people are infallible, because sometimes they are. And sometimes it's an inconvenience to have a door locked when you're
In and out.
in and out.
You're right.
We're just going to be inconvenienced from now on.
Right. For sure.
If our parents come to a building, they are going to have to check in at the office. I was thinking, lay awake at night just thinking about this. When we had our pre-K graduations, we had the back door open. Now we knew that those were our parents coming in, just because it's there off the parking lot. No more. Gonna have to check in at the front office.
Sure.
And badge up. We have our badges. Substitutes will have to badge. Guests will have to badge.
Yeah.
So we're just going to make sure all our doors are locked and that we're following our protocols to a T. Will it be inconvenient? And I want to tell the patrons, yes, it will be inconvenient.
Sure.
But we're going to inconvenience whomever we have to make our students as safe as possible. We're also meeting with a man he's a retired sheriff out of Payne County. He has the RAVE emergency notification system, and that is an app that our teachers can put on their phones, and they can inform location. It's just a panic button, basically. I would rather our teachers be armed with a panic button than nothing at all, even if it's a false alarm.
Right.
So
now, one of the things you mentioned that part of the bond projects was Bulletproof Glass at West.
bullet resistant.
Bullet resistant.
Yes.
Can those projects be moved quicker?
We are working with the architects now. They have to be designed, and there's a timeline, a phase for designing, a phase for implementation. That had not begun the design process, so we're looking at moving that up. We do have a secure entrance. It's just not bullet resistant glass.
Okay.
So we're going to make sure all of our people are badged and just up our protocols. So here's one thing that I can tell you. Our kids are still going to go outside. They're still going to have recess. And we want them to have recess. We want school to be as normal as possible. But at the same time, we're going to do whatever we can to secure our buildings. We don't want a stranger coming in. And, you think about the unthinkable between any of our events or kids outside or whatever. But we are going to up our game. And if it causes people to be inconvenienced, we're really not going to apologize for that. We're going to protect our kids.
100%.
So,
well, the security of Ponca City Public Schools has been in a very good place, in a very good position over the last several years, and now it's going to be better, and that's the thing. And I know a lot of districts, not only in our state but all over the nation, are reassessing and making some necessary changes. And like you said, inconvenience will be a part of it.
that's right.
And that's okay.
That's all right.
Yeah, for
We're
sure.
not going to apologize for that. We're going to protect our students and our staff.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of the Wildcat Weekly. And we get together every week with Shelley Arrott, Superintendent of Ponca City Public Schools, for these quick updates. And thank you for watching. Until next time, Wildcats, hold that line.